A Bug's Life is the second feature film from Pixar, released in 1998, released the same year as DreamWorks' first CG movie, Ants, which I'm not going to make any comparisons between the two movies. This is solely a review for Bug's Life. I'm going to keep it that way. I'll get to ants at some point in my lifetime. Anyway, the movie focuses on a colony of ants living on what they call Ant Island, which is basically just a small patch of land with a tree that's surrounding a dried up lake. So every day they collect food to put on this giant leaf because they have grasshoppers that come in and basically eat all their food, and the ants can't do anything about it. Our main character is Flick, an ant who feels out of place, but tries his best to fit in and do the best he can to make things better for everyone. But one day he screws up big time. He does something where all the food gets lost, and the grasshoppers do some torturing, not as far as you can do with an animated movie. So Flick gets in trouble, but he comes up with the idea of, you know what, we need to find warriors to come in and fight these grasshoppers and basically have us live in peace. So the ants say yes to this, but it's mainly a ploy to get Flick off the island so they can go on with their boring ass lives of being slaves to grasshoppers. But Flick makes it to the city and finds a group of bugs that he believes are to be warrior bugs, but it turns out to be a completely inept troop of circus bugs. And I'll just say from there, comedy, chaos, and grandness ensues. Now, for those who are really into film, I know what you're thinking. Is this the same plot as Akira Kurosawa's Seven Samurai? Yes and no. The basic plot of it, where a group is being harassed by a bunch of bandits, and they try to go find some people to save them, is very similar to Seven Samurai, or Magnificent Seven, depending on which film you prefer. But the movie has enough twists and turns to make it slightly different than Seven Samurai, and it results in, I think, one of Pixar's better efforts, honestly. I know that's not really a popular thing to say, because a lot of people seem to not like A Bug's Life. It seems like after the Cars movies, Brave, and Monsters University, people aren't too fond of A Bug's Life, which, I don't know, I really liked it. One of the reasons I really like this is because, well, when you're young and you see something at a very young age, you hang on to it for a while. But also, when this movie came out, I was that kid that not many people liked. I was different. I tried to be in the in crowd. No one would accept me. So that's kind of personal reasons on why I do like this movie. But, yeah, there you go. What else do I like about it? I think the animation is great. It's a lot better than Toy Story. Or not a lot better, slightly better. It helps that they're still not tackling humans as the main subject. I love the way everything looks from the point of view of bugs. Like, it just has this grand, epic feeling to it. It's like the giant trees, the dried up river that basically looks like a bunch of canyons. It's just a really cool looking movie, and the scale of it is magnificent. The voice actors do a really great job. You have people like Dave Foley, who's Flick, Julie Louis-Dreyfus, Kevin Spacey, Dennis Leary, and a couple other great voices in here. Kevin Spacey plays Hopper, who's the main villain of the movie, and with Toy Story, they didn't really have an actual villain. There was Sid and Scud, but Scud was just a dog, and Sid was that kid that we all knew at some point that just liked to mess with his toys in pretty torturous ways. Hopper is the first actual villain, actual antagonist that Pixar has created, and honestly, I think he's their best. I don't think they've made a villain who has yet to top Hopper. There's one that comes close, but we'll get to him later. Now, as I mentioned, the scope of the movie is fantastic. It has this real epic feel to it, sort of like the movies from David Lean, like Lawrence of Arabia and a couple others. It just has that grand feeling, kind of like that grand feeling The Lion King had, and if you want to compare animated movies. And the grandness really shows in the final act. The third act is fantastic. It is so much fun. The score by Randy Newman is also great. It really adds to that sense of grand epicness, especially, again, once you get to the third act. The circus bugs are really enjoyable. Out of all the characters in the movie, they're the best. I mean, it is bad for Flick since he's the main character, but it goes back to those old Disney days of your main character wasn't that interesting, but your supporting characters were really good, like Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. The circus bugs, almost every moment with them is really funny. Even if there are some obvious jokes, like with Francis, the ladybug, who's actually a guy. But I think there's some good payoff in the end. My two favorite characters of the circus troupe have to be Tuck and Roll. I guess I have a soft spot in my heart for simple people like Ed from Ed and Eddie. But they just really made me laugh hard. Like, they would just get into shenanigans. The fact that they don't speak English kind of amuses me. I don't know, maybe I'm just easy to amuse. I love how, at the end of the movie, when everything's wrapped up, the circus bugs and the ant colony all learn something from each other, but from the most unlikely place that they'd learn things. And as much as I say that this movie is one of Pixar's best, and I still stand by that, and I like it for personal reasons, there are problems, admittedly. And this movie is not as great as I remember it when I was a kid, but I still think it's a great movie nonetheless. What problems I have with the movie kind of surround Flick. As much as I said, oh, there was a point in my life where I basically was Flick, and I do like the guy, there are points where he's a little too animated. Not in an animation sense, but in terms of, like, he's a little over the top. He's, like, moves around a lot. He's impatient sometimes. And there are points where I just want to tell him, will you sit down and shut up, please? That being said, the advisor ants for the queen, I don't like at all. It's like, you know what, Flick, you annoy me, but you four advisor bugs annoy me even more. So there's just something about those characters that I just... Even when I saw it as a kid, I never liked those advisor bugs. I can't quite put my finger on it. Maybe they were just being assholes to Flick because he was different. And that just kind of irritated me. I guess because I was different when I was younger, but that's beside the point. The movie does lose steam in the second act. There's a exciting sequence. Once the circus bugs make it to Ant Island, they decide to leave. They're attacked by a bird, and they do a rescue to save Dot, the queen's youngest daughter, and they become heroes. And at that point, the movie just kind of goes... It just takes a big step down in terms of enjoyment. And I'm like, okay, there are some good moments here and there, but I'm kind of losing interest. I'm getting a little bored. But then it picked up again in the third act once, like, it's a big battle between ants, circus bugs, and grasshoppers. It does have a weak middle act, but the first and third act I think are really good, especially the third. And this next criticism is one of those things where I loved as a kid, but now, since I rewatched it and prepped for this review, I hate the phase that Pixar went through when they decided to put outtakes during the credits. Like, they actually animated outtakes as if, like, it's an actual live-action movie, similar to what you see at the end of certain live-action movies. And it's just like the bugs screwing up their lines, messing around with props, saying, I'm sorry, can we do that take again? It just really got on my nerves. And I even hate that in live action movies because it just takes away some of the charm of the movie, which is why I'm glad that Pixar kind of abandoned that phase, because it just doesn't work. I mean, I don't know what to say. I just hate those outtakes during the credits, especially if they're forced animated outtakes. Though I feel like those are even worse, honestly. But that being said, with the problems I had, I still think Bug's Life is really a great movie. I think it's one of Pixar's best. Not as good as the Toy Story movies, or Inside Out, or some of the other movies I'll get to, but I personally love it. It's worth seeing in your lifetime. I think it's really epic. It's fun. It's funny. It has some good moments to it, but it does lack in some areas. So that's why I'm not going to say get off your ass and go see it right now, but it is definitely worth checking out at some point. And that's my review for A Bug's Life. Leave a comment and tell me what you thought of the movie if you've seen it. What did you think? Like, subscribe, share me with your friends. And this is the real Mr. Robinson telling you there is only one.